Does Marc's Long Island Monster hold a torch to the original icon, the Seiko Monster? Well, find out next on
AvgJoeWatchReviews.
It's always time. Kind of one. Okay, so we have old versus new, original versus homage. Which one's better? Let's take a look at them side by side, and I'll let you guys decide down in the comments below which one you guys think specs out better. And then I'll share with you my thoughts at the end of the video as to which one I would purchase if I were a buyer of one of these watches. So we take a look at the original, the Seiko Monster. This is the first generation, and you could tell by the indices that you see here. And the generation 2, the indices all had the shark tooth look to it. You can even see the shark tooth on the hour hand. Now the Islander also mimics the look of the first generation here. Alrighty. Now, bezel action, we'll take a listen to the Seiko. And this one's actually a little tighter, but once you get it going. Now, you also have to consider age. This watch has definitely been through battle, and got to take that into consideration. But it does feel like a typical Seiko bezel, which I always say has that spongy-like feel, and it doesn't have a lot of backplay in some areas. It does, but it's pretty much typical Seiko bezel action here. We take a listen and look at the Islander. Much different. It is a lot smoother. We do have some backplay as you see here. Honestly, I think the bezel moves around too easily, and it's not, I would say, diver friendly. It's just, it moves around too freely. So in my opinion, the bezel action goes to the original Seiko Monster. Now we take a look at the crowns. Seiko does have an unsigned crown, and it does have, I would actually call it like a flower-like appearance when you take a look at the profile. And you know, it is a grippy crown. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. When I take a look at it in comparison to the Islander Monster, this one has the basically like the diamond pattern to it. Definitely has a nicer look to it. It is signed. So I do like the crown of the Islander better for sure. So definitely Marc did a good job with that for sure. Now when we take a look at the watch in its entirety, we see that there's been a lot here that's been copied pretty directly. Lots of good brushwork on both of these bezels. Obviously this one has been through battle, so you're going to see a lot of scratch and nicks, but it's really, they're both done very nicely. You see obviously some prominent brushwork here and here as well. So I mean, when it comes to the finishing on both of these is really good. The bracelet on these watches really are such a highlight to me because they're so comfortable, and I love the pattern of these. And they're both obviously done very similar. I would say that the only difference is that the Seiko one is fully brushed, and the Islander, you can see there's actually some polish points on the center links. And Marc does do the milled clasp, which we all love and would love to see Seiko do, but unfortunately in this case This Seiko did not do that. But this mill clasp, or I'm sorry, this press clasp is actually feels more solid than I've seen Seiko do. So this particular clasp actually does not bother me. But the advantage definitely goes to the Islander there. I think some would actually prefer more of the fully brushed appearance, whereas others would like to have the polish. So there's a little bit of a change there, and some would say an improvement. Me personally, I think I actually would rather have it all brushed. So nice job there, Seiko. But again, I like the the fact that Marc has changed up some things on the watch so that it's not a direct copy. He does add some improvements, including sapphire crystal with some anti-reflective coating. Seiko uses their Hardalex, and there is no anti-reflective coating. So again, the Islander definitely wins there when it comes to just spec for spec. Now, when we take a look at the case back, we do see the Islander logo, sapphire crystal, 200 meters water resistance. There is 200 meters of water resistance in the Seiko as well. And you can see that the Seiko does have their typical Seiko backs here with that tidal wave there. And let's see, this one is actually built in Malaysia. So what I'm going to do is show you some B-roll, or actually some still photographs actually of, sorry about that, that's actually the F91. It's in a little bit of rough shape, as you can see here. You'll definitely want to stay tuned for that video to see this pitted up against an actual G-Shock. So definitely stay tuned for that. Thank you for the F91 reminding me of that. Great segue. That actually wasn't planned. So back to the Seikos here and the Islander. I'm actually going to give you a view of the open case back and show you the movements. Now, the Seiko has the 7S26 movement, and it is a non-hacking, non-hand winding movement. So as you can see, the hand here is not moving. We unscrew the crown and you can't wind it, guys. Now, stupid me, when I got my first Seiko 5 that had this particular movement in it, I literally reached out to the seller. I'm like, I think the watch is broken. And he wrote back and said, well, this is not a winding movement. You actually have to shake the watch. And it was definitely a lesson learned for sure, but I felt kind of stupid. So yeah, in order to get this one moving, you have to shake it a few times, and there you go. So Marc has the advantage, since this actually this is copied off the first generation, yet this was actually produced just about this year. This one actually has the improved NH36A movement, which is a movement that you find in a lot of the micro brands, and obviously Seiko produces these and has these in a lot of their watches. Marc puts this one in the Islander Monster. So this one is a hackable and hand winding movement, and you can hear that smooth winding of the crown. Definitely an advantage. A lot of collectors really frown upon these non-hackable, non-hand winding movements. Doesn't bother me a bit. It actually gives this watch some personality. Let's take a look at a lume shot between the two watches and see, did Marc actually improve on Seiko's already infamous Lume? Well, let's take a look for ourselves. This has actually been under the light, so what I'm going to do is just going to do a time lapse and see which one actually is victorious. I'll be right back. So yeah, the Seiko definitely was more crisp, and it definitely won, but slightly. It wasn't like a huge victory. And I didn't have enough time for them to fade. I mean, that's how good the Lume is on both of these. So, you know, I mean, you can't judge these two based off of Lume for sure. I think you definitely were getting good value with both of these watches. So finally, I just want to do some measurements. I want to see how close the tolerances are in regards to these two watches. Let's go with the original first. I'm very curious to see if these are exactly the same size or if they're a little bit off. Let's see. So with the original Seiko Monster, we're right around 42 millimeter, almost on the dot there. Okay, so 42 there. And let's see here. Yeah, I mean, this one's a tad bigger at 42 and 42 and 0.2. So pretty close there, guys. And now let's stay on the Islander for a second here and just go with width. 14.5 on the money. And the Seiko Monster, 13.6, right? The lug to lug here, we are getting on the Islander of 47.5, and on the Seiko Monster we are getting, that one is almost like on the money, guys. I mean, 47.5. Wow. I mean, you don't get much closer than that. 20 and a quarter for the Seiko Monster, and for the Islander you're going to be at 20 and the money. 20 on the money. So pretty cool. Very, very close tolerances. The only real difference is that the Islander is a bit chunkier than the Seiko Monster. So I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to give you guys some final thoughts and let you know which one I would buy if I had the choice between the two.
Okay, so there you go, the comparison between the Islander Monster and the Seiko Monster. What do you guys think down below and why? I'd love to hear your opinion down below in the comments. So for me personally, I'm always a fan of the original, and this is no different. But I completely understand somebody that would go with an Islander because the collectability of the Seiko Monster is absolutely insane right now, and unless you're willing to pay exorbitant prices, you may not be able to get your hands on one, which is the whole argument of homage watches. You know, there's people out there that like the look of a watch, they don't want to pull it off as the original, and they just want to simply enjoy it. And I think the Islander really hits that one on the money. So Marc adds improvements to the Islander that actually makes, spec-wise, the Islander Monster a bit better than the Seiko in a lot of ways, such as it adds the milled clasp, the NH36A movement, which the Islander is now hackable and hand winding as compared to the non-hacking, non-hand winding 7S26B movement that the first generation Monster offered. The AR coating sapphire crystal is also an improvement for sure with the Islander. But when we did the Lume test, the Seiko still fared out a tad better than Marc's Islander. So yeah, if you're a collector, the Islanders are not a collectible watch, but they are a watch to enjoy. But if you're looking for a collectible watch, something that will increase in value, the Seiko Monster is definitely the way to go. But it all depends on what you're looking for. If you're just looking for the look and not hoping for the watch to increase in value and just understand that the watch is going to depreciate, then the Islander is the perfect choice. But if you are a true collector of Seikos and the Monster lineup, buying an Islander is not going to do anything in regards to that aspect of your collection. It's just going to give you the aesthetics, and no more than, you know, you're not going to get that collectability. So if that's what you're looking for, then obviously you need to go with the originals. Just like with any homage piece, you're not going to get that collectability. And also, obviously, if you want the status, which there's not a lot of status behind Monsters, let's just be honest. So, but typically when you're looking at a homage, you're looking at a watch that is much more in value, where Marc's actually homaging a watch that actually MSRP wise is equal in value. So, you know, that doesn't usually happen. So it's kind of a uniqueness with this particular Islander. So hope you guys enjoyed the comparison. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say down below. And always remember that there's always time to be kind to one another. Please take care of each other, and I'll see you guys next time on AvgJoeWatchReviews. God bless, my friends.